responses, it's always either, oh my gosh, I gotta be careful around you then, or, wait, so you could like break a board with your head? I'm sorry to disappoint you, but no. First of all, I have never beat anyone up yet, and why would I need to break wood with my head? But in all seriousness, Taekwondo really is so much more than being able to kick 2 feet above your head, or be even the toughest person in a sparring match. In fact, in the last 11 years of training in Taekwondo, I've learned that Taekwondo is a mental sport. And it's all about learning things like self-regulation and tolerance and confidence. Doing things like long memorized form routines have not only taught me how to memorize lots of information in just a little bit of time, but I've also been able to build a really great mind-body connection and build balance in my body. And doing things like board breaking has taught me that I can really beat any challenge or break any barrier that I want to, and no matter how many tries that it takes. And sparring has not only taught me to think quickly on my feet, but I've also really been able to go through the hardest challenges of my life and persevere. And not only this, but especially the past 5 years, not only have I been able to train in Taekwondo for my betterment, but I've been able to teach so many different students in my dojo as a junior leader for the past 5 years. I love seeing children younger than 3 years old to adults over 50 be able to develop their skill in Taekwondo and really do incredible things with it. And I've seen Taekwondo have incredible benefits to all sorts of students. I've seen children be able to raise their grades from C's to A's in school, and I've seen people be able to overcome their fear of public speaking just through a couple of years of Taekwondo. And in fact, one parent that I talked to about Taekwondo just a few months ago has explained that her brother actually had some anger issues and suffered physical abuse, but he was able to get through this just through Taekwondo training, which is really, really incredible. Now, one specific group that I teach in my own dojo has really allowed me to open my eyes to seeing Taekwondo as more than a sport, but I've seen it as an exercise therapy. I'm a personal instructor for my dojo's Taekwondo Clinical Support Program, and this essentially is a curriculum that's tailored towards children with developmental and learning disabilities. So autism, developmental coordination disorder, ADHD, and other learning disabilities. And this support program has been created by my Taekwondo master, Master Tae-Eun Ha, who's actually a renowned neuropsychologist, and he's been working to create this curriculum and even blend in things from occupational therapy to make this especially beneficial for students who might need to focus a little bit more in order to learn things like Taekwondo. So why exactly do children like this need to learn differently, and why do they stand out? Why must we take more attention and more focus in helping children with special needs? Well, first, let's take a child on the autism spectrum, for example. Imagine that you are listening to your favorite podcast on Spotify, but in the background, 6 other songs start playing in full volume. Are you still able to pay attention to that podcast that you were listening to before? Chances are you can't even comprehend one sentence of it anymore. This loud noise in the background, this thing that's keeping you from being able to focus on your podcast, this represents the mind of an autistic child all the time. Often referred to as cognitive noise, this happens because children with autism have a reduction in something called synaptic pruning, which essentially is the cognitive process of your brain terminating redundant and unused synapses or connections between parts of the brain. So this often causes things like overconnectivity, and sometimes your brain is stimulated when it really doesn't need to be. So often a child with autism that's trying to focus on something, their mind would stray and start taking them away from the topic of focus. So, I've seen this in children in my own dojo, and it's been very difficult for them to focus. And this process is described very well in an example given by autistic American scientist Tim Grandin. If I say the word butterfly, what do you think of first? Personally, for me, I think of one thing, and that's a beautiful orange monarch butterfly, and that's it. But some of you might be thinking about something completely different. Grandin explains that if she were to hear the word butterfly, she first imagines the blue butterflies that fluttered in her childhood garden. But next, her mind wanders to a butterfly she painted on a piece of plywood for a college project. And next, her mind continues to stray to the metal butterflies that she would put up on her bedroom windows. And then she would think about the dinner she ate last night with a butterfly cut of chicken. So although I might be able to keep my thoughts about one simple butterfly to one consistent image, a child with autism might have a much harder time doing this, because a simple thought or an idea such as this will cause a chain reaction of ideas. And because of this, a child with autism needs some sort of way to align their thoughts and ideas. So imagine a polarization of light. We can turn this turmoil of chaotic thoughts and cognitive noise into one aligned vision of thoughts with a polarized glass, and that polarized glass can be Taekwondo training. Sounds unbelievable? Let's look at some statistics. A recent study published in the Journal of Research for Developmental Disorders took two groups of children with developmental coordination disorder. Developmental coordination disorder is essentially a more physically binding disorder, which makes it harder for children to be able to balance and coordinate their body with spatial awareness. Now, one of these groups was placed into a 3-month-long Taekwondo program, while the other was a control group, so without training. After the 3 months' time, the group with Taekwondo training was significantly shown to have improvement in sensory organization as well as standing balance. Another study published in the Journal of Exercise Rehabilitation shows a similar effect, as they took a group of children with autism spectrum disorder and they put them into an 8-week-long Taekwondo program. And after these 8 weeks, they were shown to have significant decreases in standing balance, or decreases in sway velocity in negative positions. So this shows that Taekwondo really had a physical and mental impact, as it really decreased restlessness in these kids. Now, most importantly, Taekwondo has shown to be an incredible source of passion for children with developmental disorders, and it's allowed them to make their futures limitless. Let's take Taekwondo world champion Tyler Beaver, for example. As Tyler was able to show the world what it feels like to be an autistic child in Taekwondo, he was able to win 4 international titles in just the past few years, and he was able to really break the barriers that have been placed on him with his disabilities. He's shown that Taekwondo has been an incredible way for him to really control his stress and convey his emotions in a very healthy and active way. Now, I've seen this passion burn in some of my own students in my dojo. This is Eddie. Eddie's been training Taekwondo for the last 7 years. And he really is one of our most hardworking, passionate students who's used Taekwondo as a way to get through even his hardest challenges in and out of the dojo. Now, with Eddie, when he was young, he was diagnosed with pervasive developmental disorder, motor dyspraxia, and sensory processing disorder. And when he first started in our dojo, he was introverted and shy, and he wasn't able to focus on any of our curriculum or keep up with the rigor of our classes. And especially because of his sensory processing disorder, he's got very stressed out in difficult situations. Whenever he was put into a sparring match or board breaking, he was vulnerable to the pain and the fear that it caused him. He got scared in uncomfortable situations and loud environments. But now Taekwondo has allowed him to face this fear, and he's been able to find ways for him to cope with difficult situations. As you can see, he's sparring, and although he's still scared, he's able to throw himself in those situations and get through them, which is truly, truly, really incredible. And this is something not other forms of therapy can give these students, because although they teach children with special needs how to cope with situations, they're unable to immerse these children into such situations. Another thing that Eddie has really impressed our Taekwondo community with is his board breaking skills, because he's been able to get through and pass that fear and vulnerability of pain. If I asked any of you to come up right now, take your shoes off, and break a 2-inch thick board, would you be able to do it? Or would you be a little scared? Scared that you might fall and lose your balance. Scared you might not be able to break that board in front of everyone here. Scared that you might hurt. And yeah, Eddie was scared too, but Eddie was able to do it, and he continues to this day to break any sort of board with any kind of kick, because he knows no matter how many times he has to kick that board, he will break it. This This is Eddie in 2019, breaking a board with many kids, and watch how it takes him a little time for him to center himself, and some of the boards he doesn't kick on the first try either. And now this is him in January of 2022, and he breaks the board with one of the more difficult kicks, and still does it with perfect balance. Now this really makes him an incredible role model and big brother to many other students in our dojo, like Logan. This is Logan, one of our dojo's sweetest and most outgoing students. When he was young, he was diagnosed with pervasive developmental disorder as well as attention deficit disorder, which put him on the spectrum at the age of 8. Ever since he was 1, Logan was immersed into many different forms of therapy, from music therapy to occupational therapy, to even horse therapy, which has really helped him with his fine and gross motor skills. It was actually his occupational therapist who had recommended Taekwondo for Logan, because she's seen that it helped many of her other past clients and students. And boy was she right, because Taekwondo has been incredible for Logan, as he himself admits that it's helped him with his strength and confidence and flexibility. And his mom says that Logan's been able to learn a great deal from Taekwondo, as he's more disciplined and he has improved coordination and body space, which is something not a lot of other forms of therapy have been able to provide to him. Now, not just like Eddie, Logan has also had these incredible mental and physical impacts with Taekwondo, but furthermore, he's been able to blossom socially. And he's been able to break this social barrier that autism had placed on him. His mother says that when he first started, Logan was not outgoing at all, and he was shy, introverted, honestly, a little socially awkward. But now, every time I see him working with other kids in our dojo, I'm thrilled to see that he really brings that encouragement and that enthusiasm that drives the positivity in our dojo, which is really, really incredible. Just a week ago, Logan actually stepped up to teach our class in the stretching routine. And just the fact that he has that focus and he has that confidence to go up and do that, which is something not a lot of even instructors have today, is truly incredible and something to look up to. In this way, Logan has been able to persist and break these barriers that his disability put on him. Now, something that Logan's mother has really emphasized is that having this source of passion for Logan and having something, a community, an inclusive community in our dojo that allows him to do things like this and improve in such ways is really what brought his confidence and self-esteem to such a level. But not a lot of children are able to have this. When he was 5, Logan was put into gymnastics, which he was really excited to do. But the instructors were not inclusive of him. And they didn't believe that he could do it because he took longer to focus and he needed more time and attention, which they didn't want to give him. And this is not just the case with Logan. So many kids with disabilities have been frowned upon because of their disabilities. I've talked to so many parents whose children have developmental disabilities. And many of whom have heard about the benefits of Taekwondo, and they've put their children into local dojos, hoping that they would reap the same benefits. Their instructors did not want to give them the attention that they needed, and they were not patient with their kids. And a part of this is because of this stigma. The stigma that surrounds mental health and developmental disabilities, that parasite that puts itself into people's heads and makes them turn their back instead of welcoming and accepting and empowering these kids. And now to eliminate the stigma, we really need to create inclusive learning environments, and we need to give every single person the same opportunity to succeed. Because I see the stigma even in my own dojo. It hurts me every single time I hear a child say, "He's a weird kid, I don't want to work with him." And it disturbs me every time I see a kid run to the other side of the room because a child with autism takes a seat next to them. I don't have enough fingers to count the number of times I've had to hear, "What's wrong with you?" Because this needs to end. And the first thing that we have to do to end this, as instructors and as parents, is to build a connection and a sense of trust with every single child that has a developmental disability. Because only then will they value what you tell them and what you teach them. And next, it's important to have diverse and dynamic teaching styles to tailor to everybody's learning needs. Because if there's anything I learned in these past years of teaching, it's that no two children learn the same way. And this has been especially true with children with special needs. So I've seen that with special needs, things like reinforcement learning, so reward rather than punishment, works better than many other techniques. However, the traditional ways of Taekwondo require punishment to discipline children. But this means that as instructors and as change makers, we must come together to change these curriculums and reform them so that they are more inclusive of children with disabilities and children who want to make their futures limitless. But most importantly in all this is belief. Belief in every single person's capabilities and building self-belief within every single student. Because belief is the basis of empowerment and of strength and of leadership. And as dojangs start becoming more inclusive of children with special needs, we'll see that everyone within them also does too. Because even in my own dojang, I've seen how children have been able to learn that they're all there for the same reason. They really are one and the same. They've been able to put aside their differences and see people for more than the scars and disabilities that society for some reason defines them with. So, by being more inclusive in dojangs, not only do we empower children with special needs and allow them to make their futures limitless, but we are also able to create this community of inclusiveness and be more accepting and spread awareness of this stigma. So let's all come together today. Let's get our gear on and let's kick that stigma. Thank you.